The third piece, the final, in my opinion, the most important piece, is accountability. And it's the piece where you are actually getting support from other people around the event. I say you, but I mean your participants are getting support from each other and from you to actually anchor in these last two pieces into their experience. So the way that showed up for me, I went to a really intense sort of men's group retreat weekend experience that was really impactful and really powerful. And at the end of that, they plugged us into a support group where we would connect with each other every week and talk about what it is that we are working on and ask for support from other men in the group around whatever it is that we're doing. And there was accountability, there was check-ins, you'd set like a goal or an action step for what you wanted to do over the next week. People would check in, there'd be different ways to support. It was very powerful. It's also the first time I'd ever seen that done. Having a follow-up group that people get plugged into. I'm not talking about like just a Facebook group. So, I mean, people that know me, I've certainly ranted many times about how Facebook is just incredibly passive. It's filled with like tons of distractions. It doesn't actually get people to engage in any meaningful way. I mean, you can if you're really good at it, but it's like pulling teeth. So I'm talking about like, when I first started out, we used free conference call. We would do like these group calls and we would connect every week and then we also had an in-person group. I mean, in-person is of course the best, but like nowadays we have Zoom, we've got these interactive Zoom rooms. You can do so much connection with people that we couldn't do in the past. So much more is possible. Take advantage of that, capitalize it. Get your participants to connect with each other long-term. That created the biggest change for me. It was a time in my life where I was wanting to take big leaps. I wanted to work on my health, but I didn't really have any motivation around it. I wasn't really good at expressing certain parts of myself. I had never been to karaoke at that point, for instance. I didn't like dancing. I had all these like rules about how I show up. And having this support group allowed me to push through some of those barriers because I would check in every week and I would give feedback. I'd be like, okay, this week I'm gonna try this thing. I'm gonna go to an ecstatic dance or something. And as weird as that was, it was incredibly helpful for like learning how to dance and not be worried about how other people might perceive me while I'm doing it. And I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't have been in this weekly support group. I wouldn't have been working on my health. I wouldn't have gone on dates. I wouldn't have learned how to express myself. I took I've always wanted to do voiceover work. So I took some voice lessons for a while and I started learning how to do that, and that was really fun. I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't have been part of this support group that helped me push through my own barriers that kept me from showing up the way I wanted to, but just didn't know how to. That was the most impactful thing I did for creating lasting change in my life, was that support system. And so that's why, to me, it's the most important piece of the entire process. So it's all about giving people an opportunity to create accountability in their experiences. Because the more connections people have, the more opportunity for accountability. And the more accountability, the more likelihood it is that they're actually going to take action on whatever it is that they're working on. That doesn't mean pushing people past their boundaries. It doesn't mean like forcing people to do things. It just means giving people a support system to help them anchor in the experience. Because again, it's about that immersion, like learning a language. If you're in a group that meets every week, if you have an accountability partner, if you're working on your goals in some way in your day-to-day life, then you are creating anchor points. You're creating daily and weekly habits that wouldn't have been there unless you had tried to create them on your own. This is a way for you to provide that framework for your participants so that they have a way to create lasting change around your event content and actually anchor in your message into their life. So having some sort of support system, and this is really important because you've got the experience where they do the reflection intention process. They have the experience where they start working on their goals, start creating steps. This is the piece that helps them keep moving forward with all of that. It's a way for them to check in every week on their steps that they're taking, how that went, what obstacles may have come up, maybe getting feedback. I don't know if any of you have been in like a mastermind where it's a self-led mastermind, where it's a group of people that are going through some of the same stuff as you, but you're standing up and saying, this is the stuff that I'm running into. I've gotten more value out of that sometimes than just speaking to a coach or an expert, because the people in the room are connecting with different pieces of my experience in ways that other people might not. You're getting really good feedback. Like people know things when you're just able to connect on those levels. You get really valuable feedback just from your peers, your participants. And even more than that, your participants in an event are your best support system for making change. Because going back home, you have to enroll other people in the change you want to make. They may not see you in the same way as the experience that you just went through. They may see you as whoever you were before, but you're wanting to show up differently. You're wanting to do something new in your life. And not everyone is going to be able to hold that space for you. So the people that went to the event with you are your best support system. So giving your participants the ability to capitalize on that support system is going to help them create so much more value out of your events and programs than they would have been able to do on their own. So that can look like a bunch of different things. It can look like accountability partners. It can look like accountability groups. It can look like a Facebook group, although I would add to that like maybe a video component of some kind where they're actually connecting in some way. Online courses, classes, online communities, members areas. There's lots of different ways for people to create connection ongoing. And that's the whole point, is finding some way to get people to connect in a way that's not passive, that's not just pasting stuff into a chat room, but is actually connecting with something, either over the phone or on video, where you're sharing your wins and your obstacles, you're getting feedback from people, you're stating what it is you're wanting to move forward on next, and allowing people to keep connecting long-term with each other. That's going to create that support system. So